guys,
I'm Hallee,
and I'm Jamie.
and this is Literal Nonsense.
Hey guys, welcome back to Literal Nonsense. We're back for episode 7.
Whoa!
This is going to be our final part of A Court of Wings and Ruin.
Crazy.
And
are
so
here.
I know we made it. We made it. So we're going to cover chapters 49 through 82. It's pages 468 through 699. So it's the end of the book.
Jamie wanted to make sure that she said that because she was upset she forgot last time.
I have forgotten multiple times.
True. We just get too excited.
We do. And now that I feel like I said that, now we can talk about anything.
Now we can begin.
Yes, exactly. So I went and got our matchas today. And Hallee had her lavender foam.
Yes!
But guess what? So when I ordered it, they were like, yes, we have it, whatever. They gave it to me. When they gave me yours, it didn't have lavender foam on it. And I was like,
Excuse
I'm
me?
so sorry. I was like, I would never do this. Like, I normally just accept wrong orders because I'm socially awkward and hate confrontation. And I was like, I'm so sorry. I was like, I need lavender foam on this. I was like, my friend will be
Damn right.
distraught. So I did that for you.
Thank you. Love you so much. Appreciate that.
I would have done it for myself, but I did it for you.
Oh, thank God. I'm so happy it was in stock.
Yeah. So,
God.
Whew, okay.
Dodged a bullet there. It would have been a very bad recording day.
Exactly.
So when I was driving here,
Uh-oh.
War Pigs came on by Black Sabbath.
Amazing.
And I was like, yo, this is so fitting for what we're talking about today.
Yeah.
Right?
I love it, actually. Yeah. We're going to battle.
Generals gather in their masses, just like witches at black masses. Evil minds that plot destruction. Sorcerers of death's construction.
Yeah, wow. Like, I know the song, but I don't know it like
Something
that.
about, like, bodies burning. As the war machine keeps turning. It's crazy. Yeah.
I've actually seen Black Sabbath with Ozzy 3 times.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm so jealous.
I was raised right.
Seriously. Oh, I would have loved to have experienced that.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. I like that. I feel like that's like a good way to start our recording.
Right?
I'm into it. Yeah. Okay. So
shout out to all the Black Sabbath fans.
Us.
Me and you.
Right. No, we definitely have listeners who like rock for sure.
Yeah. I think, isn't Black Sabbath technically a heavy metal classified?
I would probably say yes.
I don't really know.
Me either. I'm sure someone will tell us. They'll hear us and be like, wrong.
Yeah. Fake fan.
Right, literally. But yeah, there's some kind of like rock metal, I would say. Yeah, all right. Oh, now I'm pumped. I wish I had listened to it before we recorded. Anyways, it's fine. And so
Pause.
We ended last episode with shit going down, right? Hybern destroyed the wall. So now everyone is just
destruction.
Like, yeah, they're like, we are so screwed. And so they immediately leave because they're like, all right, well, I guess everyone go gather your armies that we just loosely discussed, like banding together. And so they all leave, and immediately Feyre and Amren go to Bryaxis. Oh my goodness. Which is that little creature down in the library.
It's not little.
No, it's not little, but
it's huge.
He is huge. And
it's scary looking.
I don't know. I really think he's like a cute, like he wants
Have you seen the fan art?
Yeah, but I don't believe it. I don't know. Like, okay, well, here's my point. Okay, so
do you think of Bryaxis like that little Mona from like the 80s puppet show?
What?
Who is that beautiful girl?
Oh, I was like, what are you saying to me? I don't know why I like him and think he's so precious. I think, okay, so basically, here's a supporting fact to that. Okay. When Feyre and Amren go to him, they want to get him to fight in the War of Hybern because Feyre can't get the Carver because the mirror is impossible to get. So Feyre's like, well, he's freaky, so let's get him. Great. And so when they go to him and ask him to fight, he's like, they tell him, do you want freedom? Like, we'll release you. And he literally is like, no, this is my home, but I would really love if you, like, put a window in. Like, He's so fucking cute. He wants company like once a month. He wants a window.
I just think it's weird because like they go to the bone carver and he's like, I kind of like where I'm at. Just bring me the mirror. Like I don't care to be free. They go to Bryaxis and they're like, we'll set you free. And he's like, yeah, just give me a window. Like
It's probably like what's that
if
syndrome?
these evil beings don't they like want to be free to like wreak havoc?
Yeah, but it's probably like like that syndrome where you like start liking your captor. It's probably like your home.
Stockholm syndrome.
Or is it like Munchausen syndrome? Is that one of them too?
That's like when your parents pretend
Oh,
you're like sick.
sick. Yeah. Yeah, never
That's
mind. It's Stockholm
Gypsy
syndrome.
Rose.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's Stockholm syndrome. You're right. For sure. Yeah. Well, so maybe it's like that, right? Where they're like stuck here. They're like, I kind of like it.
I guess.
So I think it's kind of cute. So yeah, so they make this bargain with Bryaxis, of course, because it's so easy. Like they're gonna be like, put in a window, and now he'll fight and kill everyone. They're like, sure, we'll bring you company in a window, you little cutie. So we have that going for us. So we have a slight sliver of hope, but now the moves have to start happening quick because Hybern is like ready. Like we are officially at war.
Which, you know, they are just coming off from the High Lords meeting, so they're not really like band together kind of thing. It's just like Jamie said, like a loose kind of yeah, we'll
Treaty, yeah.
fight. Like okay, great. So they go to the Illyrian war camps, which is where Reese, Az, and Cass are from, and they ask them to fight. And then they try to go to the humans to get them to rally as well.
Oh boy, right.
But when they show up, like obviously they're going to see Grayson and his father.
Right, because they have that like giant fortress, so they're like, "Cool, take some humans."
Exactly. And the inner circle's like, hey, the wall's down, shit's gonna start happening, and they're like, yeah, we know. And then out of nowhere, Jurian comes out of the house,
Oh my gosh, yes. Mm-hmm.
and he's actually a double agent. So he's working for Hybern, but he's not really working for Hybern.
Right.
And
Yes. So Jurian's like good, and everyone's shocked by this. Like they're like, "Are you sure?" I don't know, dude.
which is crazy. And he goes on to say that he's hunting, not hunting, but he's looking for Miriam and Draken to get them to fight. And you're like, wait a second. I thought Jurian wanted to find them so that he could fucking kill them because he's a scorned lover.
Mm-hmm.
But actually, he's like, nah, I'm over it. I just want them to help fight this war so we can defeat Hybern.
Yeah, and he even says, he's like, I kind of want to say sorry, actually. I hope they're happy. Like, what? And the inner circle is shocked, and he even goes on to explain, like Hallie just said, he's like, yeah, I'm telling Hybern I'm hunting them because that's what he expects of me,
Yeah.
but that'll just get him motivated to, like, find them for me.
Yeah. I guess like all this time, like being stuck in Amarantha's ring, he really did some soul searching, some healing, and he's like, yeah, nah, gotta do what's right.
Well, and then Reese even says, because it sounds crazy, even as a reader, you're like, I don't know. And Reese goes, listen, like I just went in your mind, like I wouldn't believe you if I didn't just do that.
Hey,
And
I just subtly like went to your innermost thoughts,
right.
but he's clear.
But and then Jurian says, he was like, Reese, like, why didn't you go in my mind before that? Like I was waiting for you to like figure this out. And he was like, I'm trying to be like a good moral dude, like I wasn't just doing that.
He's turned a page.
Right. And so yeah, so Jurian's now on our side, which is crazy. But that also helps us because he's like working directly with Hybern, like as we saw in the end of the second book. Like he literally was there when they shot Asriel, which he literally was like, sorry, I shot you in the chest. Like it's crazy. Like he's really playing this up so convincingly. So he's now on our side. And then
Our side, like we're in it.
right. I'm
We're
like
fighting.
my team. And so while this is all happening, Grayson and his father are there, and Grayson's being a complete dick. He's like, "Fuck you, Elaine. You're a fae. You're a liar." And she's like, "Dude, I didn't try to do
Which
this."
is crazy. Like you were betrothed. Like this
Yeah.
was supposed to be your wife through
But
sickness and in health, for better or for worse.
right, this is pretty worse. You should be,
And she still wears her ring.
yeah.
Like she still has her engagement ring on.
hmm
And he's like, "Fuck you."
He's like, "Take it off."
That's insane.
But here's the weird thing with Grayson, and they mention it in the books as well. Nesta and him don't get along. He hates Nesta. And so I think Feyre even comments at one point and is like, "Oh, maybe this is better. This didn't work out." So I think he's a little.
Well, yeah, I mean, it reminds me of like when Feyre came back in like the first book and Nesta was like talking to that guy.
Oh, Thomas, right?
Yeah. And like he was a fucking asshole and like his father beat his mom. So like
Well, we find
Feyre's
out.
like, well, Nesta, what do you think's gonna happen to you, sis? Like,
I don't know what book it's in. Maybe it's in a future book, and we'll see it when we get there. But Nesta remembers, and he like pushed her too, or like he like physically abused her as well.
oh,
I think it was when she was breaking up with him. It might be in Silver Flames, but I remember like yeah, same kind of thing. So I wonder what Grayson would have done
interesting.
had they like stayed together.
It's with these men,
Yeah, so they
women
suck.
beaters.
But as much as Grayson is a shitty woman beater, or I don't know, verbal assaulter. I have no idea.
Verbal
Um,
assault.
they say they'll take the refugees. So you're like, well, thank you. But you still kind of suck. And so now, again, while we're talking to the Graysons, Jurian's kind of just standing there. And then we hear that they're going to take the refugees. So we're like, yay. And Jurian's like, oh, guys, by the way, after the High Lord meeting, Tamlin went right back to Hybern
Oh my
and he told
god.
them everything. And you're like, so you came to the meeting, you were
Yeah.
a dick, and then you redeemed yourself slightly by like saying you'll fight with us, yay. And
Giving
we're
these
like,
papers.
yeah. And now he went right back to fucking Hybern.
What if the papers were fake?
Well, I think that's probably what they're thinking. They're probably like, so what is going on?
Yeah, so what side are you on, Tamlin?
Well, clearly fucking Hybern's apparently,
The reader wants to know.
but then, well, is he on Hybern's side? I
Is
don't
he
know.
also double agent? Everyone's
Well,
fucking
at this point
double
though,
dipping here. It's crazy.
but at this point, Tamlin would be like a quadruple agent because he's been on Hybern's side and our side. Now he's back on Hybern's side. Is he gonna stay there? I don't know.
Figure it
But
out.
at least we have Jurian, and now Jurian tells us where the armies are going to be and all that stuff. And so now everyone's getting ready to fight. Jurian basically ends their meeting by saying he's going to keep trying to find Miriam and Draken and get them to join the cause. He's also going to be going playing double agent, so he's going back to Hybern, and for now he's like sticking with that. And then he said by the time that the battle happens, he's going to try to join and come fight with the inner circle and
Mhm.
all the high lords
Yeah.
against Hybern. So again, at this point, we believe him because Reese pretty much makes it black and white, 100%. He's telling the truth. But I think as a reader, the first time, you're still a little skeptical,
Yeah.
just because you're like, I don't know. This is kind of random.
Yeah. I think it wasn't really until the second read where I was like,
Yeah, great.
yeah.
Well, we know what happened, so we're like, okay, so
That's
it's
true.
good.
Obviously.
So yeah, so we at this point as readers, especially our first reader, like, all right, well, I guess we'll see if that comes to fruition.
Mhm.
All right, and now we leave the human realms.
And they go to the war camps.
Oh boy.
So Hybern's exactly where Jurian said they were going to be.
So
Nice.
yeah, yes,
Solid.
amazing.
Love that. Answered that real quick. And like the battle's going on, people are fighting, they're dying, there's arrows, there's fire, there's destruction, there's blowing things up, there's destruction, more destruction, and death.
I literally was like double destruction.
I'm trying to like explain what war is like, but I've obviously never been to
Well,
war.
and I think for this portion of the book and for this episode, reading it is great, but we're not going to sit here and describe war to you. Like,
Yeah.
like Sarah does a great job.
Okay, but also I think like war in real life is different than war in fantasy,
You'd have to think. I mean, yeah.
you know, because they have like magic and shit.
Well, yeah.
So it's like, you know, Expelliarmus!
Right. Imagine they had wands in these books. That'd be wild.
I'm not going to count it out. Who knows what Sarah's got up her sleeve?
She needs to just get her shit together and write us good books again. Anyway.
Yeah, anyways. So battles ensuing. Feyre is helping to heal the wounded. What a pioneer of her generation.
Well, and I think she even tells Reese, she says that she's able to fight in the battles like Adriata or like when they attacked the rainbow because she was
Yes.
helping the innocents.
Yeah.
And
But
it's
like stabbing those innocent fairies, like she could not do.
well, and she was saying like she can help the innocents and like she can like thrive in the chaos because it's like almost an unplanned attack.
I
But she
can
was
thrive in
saying,
chaos.
but she was saying like this when it's like two war fronts like going off against each other, like organized battle. She was like, I can't do this, and Reese was like, okay, like it's fine, like don't worry
Yeah.
about it. So she's helping whatever way she can, I guess. Which
Mhm.
okay, fine, that's good for you.
Yeah. So yeah, good for you, Feyre. So they plan to march north because apparently that's where Hybern, like another Hybern
Little army,
army is. And they're gonna glamour the armies.
right?
So then like it's almost like, oh, they think they're here, but they're not, and they're gonna do like a sneak attack kind of thing.
Right, because I think they were worried if we march north, what if Hybern wants us to march north toward this army and then they like take the south? So they're like,
Yeah.
oh, if we glamour our armies that we're, still camping here, they'll think we're here, they won't advance, but we could also march north. So they're kind of like being a little sneaky. So anyone who's able to glamour, they're like, Pharaoh, Reese, probably Tarquin, I don't know. They're all coming together and they're like making this giant, elaborate glamour of like an entire army. So that was pretty smart of them, actually.
Yeah. And I mean, it worked out to their advantage,
Hmm.
but it was like a brutal battle, Feyre says, and she's like, yeah, we are fucked. Like, I don't know how we're gonna get through this, which, morale's getting kind of low. It's not a good sign.
Right, like they're winning, but like at what cost?
Yeah. Well, I wouldn't say they're like defeating Hybern at this, like they're like holding their ground kind of thing.
Well, right, and at this point they're fighting small, like little armies, but it's not Hybern's whole host or like
Yeah.
entire army. So they're like, we are barely winning these battles.
Yeah.
Yay, we're winning, great, but we're just exhausting ourselves.
Yep.
Where actually is Hybern? We don't even know.
Where
And
are you?
right. And so Feyre realizes this and she's like, you know how to find out where Hybern's army is? The Suriel.
Oh,
Whenever I'm lost, let's just go find them.
this is like her best friend. This
Oh,
is the Suriel is like her oracle.
bestie.
Like when people go to get like a tarot reading done, like Farrah goes to the Suriel.
Feyre's like taking notes. She's like, come on, bestie, what's going on? And also, it's also funny because
Hey,
I feel like
girl.
I'd be scared of the Suriel at this point because they always tell me something that I don't want to know.
Hmm.
And Feyre's like, I embrace it.
Yeah, seriously. But she can't look in the mirror.
Right, right. And so right. And so Feyre goes
Make it
and
make
she
sense.
wants to plot to ask the Suriel where Hybern is, right? And so Moore and Feyre are on the sidelines of another battle that's going on. And basically Feyre is a little sneaky bitch and she tells Moore, listen, they really need you down there. It's a close battle. Why don't you go fight? And Moore's like, all right, stay right here. Like Reese told me to watch after you. And she's like, okay, I will. And the second Moore leaves, she's like, all right, Nesta, I'm out. Like, don't tell them where I went. And Nesta's like, okay, see you
She
later.
straight up dips.
And so Feyre finds the Suriel in the middle, that ground where like the Weaver is and like that ancient forest that like no court has claim to. And the Suriel tells Feyre that Elaine or Nesta has to scry to find Hybern. He says that even they can't see where Hybern is. There's all these like wards around the army and stuff, but because Elaine and Nesta are made from the cauldron, they can scry and find the cauldron because they're all like calls to like.
Mhm. And scrying is like when you take like bones and
Mm-hmm.
rocks and you like shake them in your hand. It's like when you throw dice.
Yeah.
And then like depending on where it falls on the map, like they'll
Okay,
find where
let's be
Hybern
real though. I
is.
know it's magic, right? So magic in general is a wild concept. But if I threw bones and stones on a table and it like made a circle, I would lose. I'd be like, holy shit, it worked! Like no one thinks this is crazy. I don't know. I do. Like
Okay,
imagine real
but
life.
we live in this reality. They live in that reality.
I guess,
So
but I would be shocked.
so your little human minds can't conceptualize.
Okay, but they were humans, so like this isn't crazy to them. Even the most basic things, they're like, holy shit, it works. Like I'd be shocked. Anyway, I'm just
I
saying.
guess.
I'm just saying.
It's fantasy.
But they were fucking
This
humans.
is all
So
fake. Yeah, but even them, they're fake humans.
what do you mean?
Yeah, but they're humans in a magical world.
Oh. I'm like, what do you mean they're fake? They are? Oh my god. Okay, anyway, so now, of course, because we have this typical scene with the Suriel, Feyre gets more than she asks for, right? The Suriel also tells Feyre that she decides what breaks her because they start talking about the mirror. And so basically he tells her like you
How
can
inspirational.
right, he's like if you look in it, like you decide what breaks you, girl. Don't let them tell you. Right. I'm like, oh, he's a motivational speaker now. Okay. And so also they tell Feyre, I keep saying he or they because I know it's like a non-gendered creature, but I just feel like it's a he. But I also want to call it a gossip girl, so whatever. Anyways, basically they tell Feyre to win the war.
Thank you for that clarification.
Because I keep saying he and they, and I feel like I'm being confusing. And so he tells Feyre to win the war. The answer lies on the second and penultimate pages of the book. Okay, great. We're like, what the fuck does that mean? But
So random.
he's like, go tell Amryn. She's like, okay, sounds good. Now, as they're just chit chatting, catching up, right? All of a sudden, the serial gets fucking shot. And you're like, what?
And guess by who?
Fucking Ianthe. Are
Bro,
you joking?
she
So
made a comeback.
this bitch
She's
really
not
is
dead
just
yet.
pissing me off. And also, like, she has her little fucking crippled hand. Like, what's going on? So now Feyre's pissed. She's like, oh, not my cereal. Never. And so
Not in
Feyre,
my house.
right. So Feyre starts running and she runs to the Weaver's cottage and you're
Yeah.
like, oh dear. And so Feyre like runs in the door and the Weaver's like, oh, you're back. And she's like, I have a fucking plan. Please stop talking to me. And Feyre's like holding the door. And Ianthe and her two guards, because she came with two guards, run into the Weaver's cottage to go find Feyre. And Feyre flips around and pulls the door shut. And she just hears like all this screaming.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, that's a good death. Like,
stuck in the haunted house.
I hope that
they're getting ripped to shreds.
Yeah.
And the Weaver's going to use their flesh as thread on her loom.
Yeah. Well, spoiler real quick. We'll talk about it again. But no, actually, I don't want to say. I'm going to wait.
That was a very vivid description.
It was. I'm actually going to wait. Remember the Weaver.
Okay. You can wait then.
And so Feyre runs back to Cyril.
Well, when should I remind you?
No, I'll know.
Oh, okay.
I'll know. Don't worry. And so Feyre runs back to the Suriel, and she's like, "Oh my god, are you okay?" And he's like, "No." And so the Suriel does succumb to their wounds, and they do pass away. But their death scene is the saddest thing I've ever fucking read in my life. So I'm gonna read you a quote from it because I can't be sad alone. So
you all will suffer with us,
right? And so she asks like the Suriel, what can I do? And they say to stay until the end. And you're like, oh, a fucking course I will. Like, I will stay with you even after. I don't care. I'll take you with me.
Which isn't that reminiscent of when she was with Tamlin and he brought the angel in without the wings?
Yeah.
And she was like, I wouldn't want to die alone.
Yeah, and that's also reminiscent of when she's dying in the first book and Rhys says, I didn't want you to die alone. So it's like a big theme here that like
crazy.
Dying alone is a very sad thing, and no one wants to like let anyone suffer that fate, except for like, you know, the assholes.
Yeah,
but not the nice ones. And so the Suriel's like, I told you to stay with the High Lord, and you did. And she's like, oh my god, you meant Rhys. So what a little shit stir. That was book one, and of
full circle moment.
Of course, Feyre was like Tamlin in that book.
Yeah,
and that wasn't the case. And so they're chit-chatting, you know, he's dying, it's very sad. And
just,
then,
you know, chatting away while he's taking his last breaths.
Honestly, he's talking a lot while he's dying. And so he asks Feyre, I have a request. And she's like, oh my god, of course, anything. And he says, leave this world a better place than how you found it. And you're like, well, just fucking kill me because this is so sad. Like, are you joking? This like little, and they describe the Suriel as like a scary, like no lip, big teeth creature skeleton thing. And yet I feel so much for it.
If you've seen our trailers, you've seen the fan art.
Yeah, guys, check out the trailers every Tuesday. Hallie's crushing it.
I'm working hard on them.
Working hard.
It's hard.
Little plug for ourselves there. And so, yeah, super sad. The Suriel is now dead. So Feyre is, of course, super depressed.
Well, now she can't run to the Suriel every time she needs to know something.
Right, so that's it.
So now she's just like everyone else, just has to figure it out.
I also I'm just thinking of it now, it's interesting how she went to the Suriel once every book in the main trilogy, which I didn't like think of, but it's been any of like the crucial points of each book.
Yeah.
She's gone.
Valid.
Just food for thought.
Damn. Anyway, so now that Ianthe is dead, She's torn apart in the Weaver's cottage. The Serial R.I.P. Um, of all people to come find her, it's Helion.
Right.
So random. And he was there because wasn't he sent to like try to get the Weaver to work for them
Yeah.
for the war, which is crazy. And so he brings her back. He's like, "Let's go. You've done enough." And Moore's pissed at Feyre
Pissed. So
because she
pissed.
lied. Because she was like, "Oh yeah, I'll just wait right here for you," and then she dipped. And Moore's like, I was supposed to watch you. Like, why would you do that? Blah blah blah. And so she's going on this tangent about how Feyre is a liar, and Feyre's like, "You lie to us every day." Like,
Yeah,
she
like it
like
literally
claps
goes.
back at her.
Yeah, it goes right for the fucking like below the belt.
Yeah, and she's referencing like her relationship with Az.
Right, like she's like, you lead him on, but then you're not with him. Like you're a liar. And Moore's like, you know what the fuck you're talking about,
Yeah,
which we'll talk about in probably a few minutes. But Feyre's just like shouting insults without like the full information. I
yeah.
feel
I mean, emotions are high, right? They're at war, so whatever.
so
It
they're
was gonna
fighting.
come out eventually.
Yeah, so they are pissed at each other for sure.
Yeah. And then Nesta attempts to scry. Does she
Mhm.
do it? Yeah,
Yeah,
right. So that's
yeah,
cool.
but
She's powerful and magical.
when she's scrying, remember how she like can't get out, and so Feyre has to go in her mind and like
Oh
pull her
yeah.
out, and they said the cauldron's watching them. So Nesta does scry, but the cauldron now is also aware of where they are.
Yeah, like it left like a window open,
Yes,
which means Hybern now knows where they are.
correct. Yes. And so that's not good. Like just for
Bad
lack of
news.
yeah, bad news. And so that night, all of a sudden Pharaoh wakes up and she like sits straight up in bed and she's like, something is wrong. And Reese is like, oh boy, okay. And so Feyre runs out of her tent, and all of a sudden Nesta and Amryn are also like right in the middle, and they're like barefoot in their nightgowns, like also like you feel it too, and you're like, oh
Who's
no,
wearing a nightgown during war?
probably Nesta.
This
I
bitch.
will bet my life actually. Um, and so yes,
Sleep in your leathers.
yeah, but she doesn't even wear leather. She stands and watches Cassian fight every battle, and just stands there. And
What a life.
she's like, all right, do a good job. Okay. Um, and
You're doing
so
great, sweetie.
right. That's like so anxiety inducing. Forget it. No, couldn't
No.
do it. And so they feel it too. And then they're standing there and they're like, okay, like what could it be? Blah blah. And Azriel's like, guys, where's Elaine?
Afterthought.
And so they start running to her tent and she's gone. So the Nestins, the net what?
What did you just Nestin?
I combined Cauldron and
Nesquik?
Nesta. No, like that's genuinely what I did. I combined Nesta and Cauldron.
Love that for you.
Wow. Okie dokie. The Cauldron stole Elaine. Nesta has nothing to do with this. And so Faye was like, I'm going after her. And of course, Azriel's like, I'm coming too. And you're like,
Ugh.
okay. All right. And so Feyre and Az decide to go after her. Now, Feyre decides in order to get into Hybern's camp, she's going to glamour herself as Ianthe. She's going to use like her shape-shifting power and become Ianthe. And she's really banking on the fact that no one knows Ianthe is dead yet because she just died like what this morning. So Feyre's really hopeful, and she's like, "This could go very bad if I try to walk in." And they're like, "Well, she's dead, so who the fuck are you?" And so she's gonna be Ianthe, and
Another
Azriel's
character brought back to life.
right. She's like, "This is an SJM novel. Anything's possible."
Crazy.
And so Azriel's gonna just be like shadows, like he's just gonna be like her shadow. I don't know.
Shadow singer.
Right. And so she goes to Hybern and she gets in fine. They like wave at her. And she's like, oh, thank God. So no one knows Ianthe's
Hey,
dead.
girl.
Yeah, so Feyre's good. Feyre is Ianthe and she is in Hybern's camp. So now we are like where Nesta scried. We found the camp and it's huge. Like the army is never ending. And now, of course, because they have Elaine, like we have to go right in the middle of it. So
Yeah.
these two are now in the middle of Hybern's camp. Not good.
No. And once they're in, Jurian comes up and he's like, hello?
Hey.
What are you doing here? And I just want to mention that like the war camp is like probably as sinister and debaucherous as you could imagine.
Yeah, there's like people being tortured. There's like dancing,
slow roasted on a stick.
Yeah, like it's bad.
It's like, ugh.
I have a very vivid image of it in my head. I don't know if it's from a movie or like,
Wait, me too.
yeah, I don't know if she just describes it extremely well. But I do have a very vivid, like, it's almost like I can't think of what it actually is, but I have a very clear image in my head. It's just like this like dark, low lit place, like creepy music, dancing, torture.
Yeah, girls like screeching and then like weird giggles and then like
Yeah.
men like throwing back beers and
Yeah. It's not good. It's really
their
shitty.
weapons are scattered everywhere and like the only light is from the fires and
Mm-hmm.
it smells like death and meat and decay.
Ew, I literally just got nauseated, actually. Like I wanted to take a sip of my matcha and I was like, I might throw up. I was like,
It's gonna ruin your matcha experience for the
maybe I'll
rest of
wait.
your life.
Yeah, right. And so Jurian's like, Feyre, I know it's you.
Yeah, so thank God. Jurian is in on the trick, right? And so while they're walking through the camp, Feyre sees like children of the blessed being like
Mm.
strung up and like tortured. And Jurian's like, I'll save like them for you because Feyre's like, look, we have to get my sister and then we got to dip. And Jurian's like, okay, I'll meet you at the cliff's edge with the children of the blessed. And then once you have Elaine, you guys can skedaddle out of here.
Well, and it's funny too because Jurian at one point, not that it's super relevant, but I just think it's funny. And he's like, "You've been lusting after me for weeks. Act like it." Like about Ianthe. And
Oh,
I'm like, "A
yeah.
fucking course she has been."
Yeah.
Like, are you kidding me? Like, this girl either has the highest sex drive anyone I've ever met in my life, or she is just committed to her power like quest.
Yeah.
I don't know which one it is.
Probably a little bit of both.
I mean, her libido is crazy. Like, what vitamins is she taking? I don't know. But
It's her priestess powers.
wild, truly crazy. And so, in order to like act and get Elaine, Elaine's being kept where the cauldron is.
Mm-hmm.
And so, because again, favorite is Ianthe, she's like, I must go pray before the cauldron. And so she gets like in the tent that way, which is hysterical because Feyre doesn't give a fuck less
Yeah,
about the
exactly.
cauldron.
And Ianthe of all people, like we just like, this slutty bitch, and now she's like, I must pay my respects to the
Well,
cauldron.
and when she's going in to pay respects to the cauldron, she like passes two Fae guards.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
And like she kind of like winks at them, and I don't know if she says it out loud or just like her look conveys it. But basically, she's like, "When I'm done with like the human, meaning Jurian, like I'll come find you for sex."
yeah.
I mean, wow, hydrate. She's drinking lots of water.
Hydrate.
Like, wow,
That's so funny.
she's truly amazing to me for in that regard.
Wow.
Impressive.
She's impressive. So she gets in the tent, whatever, and she sees Elaine. She's like, it's me. I'm going to save you. So she grabs Elaine and they run out, and the king is chasing them.
Right, because once
with
they got
dogs.
Elaine, they can't, like, it doesn't matter anymore. Like,
Yeah.
once they got her, the gig is up. So basically, it was like, grab her and run.
Yeah, so now everyone's on high alert, and Hybern's like, get them! And so a chase ensues. And they're running, yada yada, and Feyre sees the children of the blessed like at the cliff. Is there one or two?
There's one.
There's one, right?
Mhm.
And she's just like chilling at the cliff's edge, like, hey, I'm over here.
Right,
Come
and
get me.
and they're being chased by these dogs. They're being shot at with arrows. I
Yeah.
mean, like, it's really like a full blown chase.
Which is crazy. And while they're running, there's like another beast that's running along with the dogs, like parallel to them. And Feyre realizes, she's like, holy shit, that's Tamlin. And Tamlin ends up like holding off like the other hounds.
Yeah.
And like lets her get to the cliff's edge, and like Az comes and like scoops up the children of the blessed, and Feyre flies. She flies off the cliff.
Yes, but
not well, but she does.
But so as Asriel grabs the two girls, right? He's also being shot at, so he's like trying really hard to fly, and he's doing fine because he's been training his whole life. So he has them, and now Feyre's like, oh, I have to fucking go. And she does. She jumps and flies, like Hallee just said. But in the book, it mentions that like what keeps her in the air is like this like spring scented breeze fills her wings. So again, not only did Tamlin jump and attack these dogs that were like right on her heels, but he also kept her flying.
He
like,
gave her a boost.
Yeah. So the point of why they had to fly basically off this cliff is because they had to get past the wards of the camp in order to winnow out. They couldn't winnow within the camp's like perimeters, so they had to like jump, get far enough off the cliff to be like away from the camp, and then they can fly.
There was like a bug.
Oh.
So I killed it and I was like, just want to
I
make
heard
sure.
ruffling and I was like, ooh, Hallie made us slutty brownies. So
Mm,
I thought she was diving in, but she's just killing bugs.
yeah.
Okay. And
I'm
so yeah,
saving the slutty brownies.
so now Tamlin is, we don't know what the fuck is going on because he was working for Hybern. Then he came to the High Lords meeting. Then he went back to Hybern. Now he revealed his hand again and he's back on our side. And as they are winnowing out, Tamlin like jumps mad far in his beast form and he gets past the wards as well and he winnows out. So you're like, was he just being a
Tamlin
double?
out.
Yeah, was he being like a double agent? I guess. I don't know. So Tamlin did save Feyre
It's hard to keep up.
twice, and now he left Hybern. So you're like, okay. And Feyre even comments that all of their like deceit, Hybern's probably gonna think was Tamlin. So Jurian's safe still. Like
Yeah.
Jurian's good. He didn't reveal that he was like a spy or anything. So they all get out. They all winnow out. They get back to camp. All is well. We don't know what happened with Tamlin. Now, we have the human girl with us, the children of the blessed. Her name is Briar. I have seen some things online speculating that Briar and Tamlin could be a thing.
What?
Swear to God, because I think like her name, and I never knew who it was until the second read. People, I saw like fan art of being like Tamlin and Briar, and I'm like, who the fuck is Briar? I thought they like made this girl up. And then on the second read, they say the girl's name is Briar, and I don't know where that like basis came from.
Seems a bit
I
of a
just wanted,
stretch.
I agree. I just wanted to mention it because I've seen it.
Wait, also speaking of like Tamlin's mates,
Oh,
apparently
mm-hmm.
Tamlin was mated to Amarantha.
Well,
And he
okay.
rejected the bond, and that's also why she's so fickle and like evil.
Okay, you have to mention that this is like people speculate. It's
Oh,
not
sorry.
like apparently. Like you made it like SJM is like, by the way. Hallie's like real facts here. You heard them here first.
Sorry, yeah, this is a theory. It's not confirmed.
Not canon.
But isn't I when I saw that I was like, no way. That's insane.
I don't hate that theory. Um yeah, just because I mean
Kind
maybe
of
that
lukewarm about
explains
it.
why she's so insane.
I just think she's insane in general.
And
So
honestly, Tamlin would not have mentioned that to Feyre because he's the king of neglecting
vital information.
Yeah, that like makes him seem anything less than like perfect in her eyes.
Yeah.
So he wouldn't be like, "Oh, I already have a mate," you know.
True.
So
Wait, if you have a mate and you reject the bond, can you get another mate or no? Or is it like a one-timer thing? You get one chance.
I think that's like a thing that people talk about. Oh, well, that was we talked
What
about
if somebody rejects the bond and then they're like, actually, no, I want the bond back, and then it can like snap back into place?
Better right to SJM.
Holy shit. SJM, I need some answers.
That was a plot point in Throne of Glass, though. Remember?
Yes.
But that we're not gonna say what happened there. But yeah. So I don't know about mating bonds. I think it's kind of tricky. I think it's more of like whatever SJM writes is the truth.
Yeah, I guess so. It's her world. We're just living in it.
Right. And so they go back to camp, and everyone's happy they made it back. Everyone's returned safely. So we're back after that. We know where all the armies are, so that's great. And we got Elaine back. She's just still like a wet napkin, and here we are.
Yeah, so when they get back, Feyre and Mort actually, kiss and make up, which is nice. And Mort tells Feyre, she was like, if you made it back alive, like I promised myself that I would tell you like the whole story kind of thing.
Right, about like what her fucking deal is.
Yeah, so Mor's apparently lesbian. She tells her she prefers females, which is crazy because wouldn't she be hooking up with girls then and not like Helion and Cassian and
Well, so she says she prefers female. She's like, like I enjoy both, but I definitely am like more of like I connect with women more. But I think that's also why she doesn't hook up with females. 'Cause I think she's really trying to hide that part about herself. And she talks about it in regard to her family as well.
yes,
I don't want them having that part of me. All these things. And then
secrets. But then she goes on to say that she chose Cassian to sully herself with because she knew it would mean too much to Az.
Right, because she knew that she would never I think the thing is this. I think she physically enjoys male intimacy, but I think like as far as a relationship, she would only date a female.
Like
So I
connection.
think with if she knew if she had sex with Azriel, she could never like date him, and that
Yeah.
would like break his heart. And
It'd be like
Cassian
a
was like,
sticky
whatever.
situation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So now we know why she's never entertained Azriel, because she could never give him fully what he wants, and that would like break his heart more. So
All
you're
right.
like,
So like respect,
right,
which is nice, but like also you still feel bad for Az because obviously he's left in the dark. He doesn't know what's going on.
right.
But then to go along with this, Moore also tells us a little bit more about like her story of like what happened
Hmm.
that day that she was left at the Autumn Court's border. And can you believe that her family nailed a fucking note to her stomach?
Yeah, and so it's really interesting. We'll also mention this in Frost and Starlight. They like SJM, I don't think that she writes things unintentionally, and she specifically mentions that the note was nailed to her womb. I think that's weird.
It's very
Uh
specific.
right. Like
Why not her arm or her head or her
right.
chest?
And not or even just stomach, right? But she says womb. So what we
Oh,
don't
she does
know.
explicitly say womb.
Yeah, so like what's the deal with what happened there? We still don't know the
Hmm.
full story of that. So just something to remember. Why not? It might be nothing, but it could be. And so any things that stick out to us like that we mentioned just for the off chance that they could mean something. And then I like this quote that Moore says when they're talking. She says, "My gift is truth, and yet I have been living a lie my entire existence." And you're like, "Oh, girl, that's
Wait,
deep."
and then also, she also tells Feyre that she had a human lover who was one of the mortal queens,
Yes,
which makes
yeah.
so much sense why when they first met with the human queens, she was like, your ancestors would be disgraced at like seeing you guys like this right now.
Right, because one of them was like legit her actual girlfriend, and she was too scared to commit, and then she decided that she wanted to be with her, and that was the day that the wall went up after the war, and then she like never saw her again. Very sad.
Sad.
So that's Moore's deal. So now we have a lot more insight into Moore and why she's been acting this way. So okay, fine. And now none of the other inner circle knows. So Feyre's keeping the secret for her, and she's like, whenever you're ready to tell them, go for it. And so they're back at the camp, and Feyre tells Amryn, okay, here's the pages you need from the serial. Okay, fine. She's like, all right, I will look. So now we also find out at this point that Hybern tricked them. Now that we know where the large army is, we realize that Hybern is actually going to be marching in the human realms. They're down there, and now we've been going north this whole time, if you guys remember. And
Tricksters.
so where Hybern has located themselves in this war, basically all the armies now have to decide between saving the humans and being exhausted for the final battle, or like sacrificing a bunch of humans. So they have a big discussion and they decide,
Sacrifice the humans.
right, but because we're good people, unlike Hallie, um, they all decide like, listen, we're starting a new world. We want to kind of like be with the humans, band together. And so all of them decide, you know what? Anyone who can winnow, we're gonna go save the humans. They're gonna bring them to Summer Court for like refuge, and it's a new world. Let's make it happen. And so they start winnowing
Take
all
a
night.
shot every time Jamie says new world.
I don't even know how many times it's been already. Probably like 3. We're already feeling good.
So I was thinking of like on do you watch Bravo?
No.
It's like the after show with like Andy Cohen.
Yeah, okay, I know what you're talking
He's
about.
like, take a shot every time, like whatever.
Those games are fun, actually. Anyway, but yes.
Dangerous.
So we win on the people because it's a new world. And so they do it all night long, right? And they save the humans, and they're like, okay, we're going to be tired and a little depleted for this final battle. Okay, fine. Now, after they get back, Favor's like, fuck it. I'm not that tired. I'm going to go right to the Ouroboros. And you're like, wow.
Hell yeah!
What a move. And so she goes to the mirror. It's also a very descriptive chapter. It's an amazing read, but long story short, for the sense of this, she looks in the mirror and she sees like her true self, like all the good, all the bad, like this like monster version of herself. And so that's
Fan
what,
art goes crazy with that one too.
right, crazy.
Check
fan
that
art.
out in this upcoming trailer Tuesday.
But well,
Oh wait, but you never mind.
yeah.
You'll already have seen it at that point.
You'll see the trailer and we're referencing it here. And so Feyre sees herself and realizes that people break because they can't like face themselves. Okay, fine.
Wow.
And so,
How, like,
mm,
what's that word?
corny.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah, it's one
You
of
know
those
what I
things.
mean?
Uh, yeah, I do know what you mean. Like, wow, how like profound.
Yeah, yeah, profound.
Yeah, I'm like I'm indifferent about it. I just don't really care. It's a little corny, but okay, fine. Like,
SJM is like a fucking inspirational teacher in
yeah,
these books as
SJM is like
well.
really like look within, guys, and you're like, okay, Sarah, you're writing fantasy books, but okay, fine. Like, put some little sprinkles of knowledge. So Feyre gets the mirror. Of course, she tackles it. Yay, and she brings it to the carver. Now he's like, I don't really want it, and she's like,
All
I'm
this work for
yeah,
nothing?
she's like, I'm fucking sorry. What did you just say to me? And he's like, oh, well, I don't really have any need for this mirror, but I just wanted to make sure you were worthy to fight for. And she's like, are you fucking kidding me?
That's crazy.
And he's like, but
It was all a test.
yeah, he's like, but you are, so therefore I'll see you tomorrow morning. And she's like, all right, dude, I don't even care anymore. And so Feyre goes back home. I guess she maybe gets like 30 minutes of sleep. I don't know. And then now, morning of the war.
Yep, so here we are.
Big final battle.
Yeah, the last. This
This is
is
it,
this is
guys.
the end, really. Well, it's
Yeah.
not the end, but it's the end of the war.
Yeah.
So
Buckle up for this. This is redonkulous.
so Asriel gives Elaine his sword, which is called Truth Teller.
Mm-hmm.
And Asriel doesn't give this sword to anyone.
Truth teller might be the knife.
The knife?
I think it's the knife.
Okay, whatever. It's a steel pointy object that can kill people.
All right, spoiler real quick. So skip ahead 30 seconds. I think the reason I'm saying it is because I think
Oh, the
it's
Star
the,
Sword.
yes,
Gotcha.
it's the knife for
Isn't
that.
the name like Gideon or something like that?
Yeah, it might be. I don't remember. I'll remember when I.
That's a Crescent City mashup. Anyways.
All right, back to the original. No more spoilers. Yay!
Resume. Uh, so he gives her Truth Teller, which is like, okay, why would you give Elaine a knife? Because it's not like she's going into the battle.
Right, and he never gives it to anyone. You're like, this is a weird interaction, but he's like, protect yourself, and you're like, okay.
Just give her any of the other knives. I don't know. Weird.
Yeah.
And Rhys gives his little speech.
Honestly, though, cried the whole time.
I mean, like, it's like mad corny. I mean, from my perspective, because that's.
I hate when Hallie has talking points that are emotional because she hates every single one of them. And then.
It's just like, okay, when you say corny, I'm like, yeah, this shit is corny. I mean, like, he goes to like each person, like in the inner circle.
Okay, but imagine, like, you literally all think you're gonna die. These people you've known for 500 years. Like, you are best friends. You have nothing to fucking say to them?
Jesus, okay. Calm down.
Like, I'd be, like, more emotional than this.
Yeah, it's just like, I don't know. He tells Cassian, you know, like, I would not have known the true depths of strength, of resilience, of honor, and loyalty. All right. Read a book, then you could. He like
mind you, I'm like
and then he says to Az, like, I would not have known that it meant that it's the family you make, not the one you were born into, that matters.
Also correct.
Okay, whatever. And then he tells more, like, you taught me that light can be found in even the darkest of hells. Like, all right, like, this is just like a thank you speech, basically.
So this is where Hallie and I differ, and if we ever do romance novels, it's gonna be so much fun because
I'm dreading that. I'm dreading the day.
Guys, vote for romance so you can see how ridiculous the differences of what we are.
Yeah. I mean, okay, but here's the thing, right?
I loved this part of the book. Loved it.
I mean, it was fine. I mean, okay, I did get emotional. I'm not gonna lie. I did cry reading this book. I'm not completely cut off from my emotions, asshole. When he says to Feyre, but he says it down the bond, like he doesn't say it in like out loud. And wow, I just got like shivers. He says, I would have waited 500 more years for you, 1,000 years, and if this was all the time we were allowed to have, the wait was worth it.
Like that didn't get you?
Okay, that got me. I'm not gonna lie, but like, but like overall, you're just like, like, you know. And then he's just like, oh, it's been a great joy and honor to have known you all, to call you my family, yada yada yada.
Well,
okay, Rhys, thank you for that. You are cute.
I guess really. Okay, you could feel whatever way you want about this, whether I think it's adorable, you think parts of it are corny, but they're going into this battle fully expecting that they are all going to die. So like that's kind of as the reader where we're at, right? Like, and so he has this little speech, and then like they all just go off to war. They go to their designated little space like spots, and that's it.
Yeah, but before they go off to war, Reese and Feyre like surprise each other
because
Bryaxis comes and Feyre's like surprise, and then all of a sudden like
and the bone carver because she went.
Yeah, and then the freaking Weaver comes and Reese is like surprise, and they're like, oh my god, like that's like, so funny.
What a good couple. And here is where I was reminding myself to say this. I wanted to leave it a surprise that the Weaver came to battle, but she comes and she's wearing fucking Ianthe's circlet on her head. And I'm like, you bad bitch. Okay. So that was iconic. It. That's all I wanted to say. So yeah,
I'm iconic. And I love iconic shit. Right? Is that the quote?
I don't know.
Because it's iconic. I love to do iconic shit. That's what it is. I think that's a congratulations quote. I believe
you. You seem confident, so I'm okay.
Whatever.
And so those three go fuck shit up, basically. The three monsters, the old gods, whatever, they are just ripping through people.
They're there. Autumn comes. Spring, the humans come. Yeah. Jurian's leading the humans. Like, so they're all rallied.
You're shocked by all this. Like, all of a sudden, over the mountain, Autumn, Spring, fucking Tamlin. You're like, oh, so I guess you were a double quadruple agent. Like, cool, you're for us. And Jurian's leading the humans, but also Grayson's with them. So, like, everyone
at the end did show up.
Got their shit together, right? And so the battle goes on. Autumn like winnows down and they start burning all the Fabane cards. So we're like, cool, so they're not gonna like fuck up our powers. Okay, great. Now all of a sudden they're watching the battle happen because they're waiting Amren and Feyre to go to the cauldron. And so they're waiting, and all of a sudden Nesta screams Cassian's name. Cassian! I hope she did not sound like that. And Cassian's up in the sky with all of the Illyrians fighting.
Very dramatic. I could just like see it in my head. She's she's like on the floor.
Yeah, like on her hands,
reaching out.
That'd be me as fuck. Okay, so he's up in the sky with the Illyrians fighting. So he hears her and is like, she's in trouble, and flies down. The second he comes down, the cauldron blasts apart the Illyrians, and like so Nesta felt the cauldron's power, and she saved Cassian, which you're like, damn. Okay. Goddamn. And so things are looking bad. Even with the Weaver, Bryaxis, and the Bone Carver, like things are not going super great. They're just honestly super outnumbered. Yeah. And so
there's too many of them.
All of a sudden, things are not looking great. A horn blasts. And at first they're like, oh my God, there's more of them. Like love you. Like, this is it. We're going to die. This has been nice, but And it's funny because Reese and Feyre fly up in the sky, and then all of a sudden Cassian like flies Nesta up because she's like, I want to see. And so they all fly up in the sky, and all of a sudden it's Draken's army who's been missing this whole time. These like, feathery winged people, and he flies over and he's like, hey guys, and they're like, Draken,
the Nefel, right, is what they're called.
No, that's the one girl's name.
Oh, Nefel's the girl's name.
The Seraphim.
Oh, the Seraphim, yeah.
Okay, cool. And so he's like, hey guys, we're here. And they're like, oh my God. And he's like, so we've actually been on that island the entire time. We just glamored it so well that even you guys couldn't figure it out. And he's like, we realized that we fucked up. Sorry, but we came.
And Vasa comes too.
Yes. And then so he points below him and there's ships. And he's like, oh yeah, Vasa came. And they're like, oh my God, Lucian found Vasa? And he's like, who's Lucian? Like,
she's the sixth queen?
Yeah. And he's like, Lucian? He's like, no, that guy with the scar on his face, he came later. Someone else found Vasa. And they're like, who found Vasa? And they're like, this guy. And they point, and oh my fucking God. It's Papa Archeron, and he's on the fucking Nesta ship, and he's like pointing, and then the two ships behind that are the Elaine and the Feyre. So this piece of shit father, who did nothing, ever, he's like, my daughters are all Fae, and they're fighting this crazy magic war. All right, time to go. Like, he just steps up. Crazy. I mean,
that to me, I was like, oh my God, yay, love this. But then I was like, this is so far-fetched.
It is, but
it's too good to be true.
But I cry every time. As soon as they write on the helm of the Nesta was our father, I'm like, fucking...
And, like the way they word it, and it's just like the Nesta, the Elaine, the Feyre, or some shit like that.
The
Nina, the Pinta, the Santa Maria.
You're so stupid. stupid. Oh my god.
Chilling on the beach while you're drinking sangria. Sorry.
And so they're not super fucked.
I hope every time you read this book you think of that now.
I won't be crying anymore. That's for freaking sure. Jesus. And so, yay, guys, we're not like super screwed. And so at this point, Amryn and Feyre are like, okay, the time is now. We have to go to the cauldron like right away because everything is going to be starting happening. Like everyone's here. It's going to be like full-fledged war. And they're like, ooh, but Hybern, like the king of Hybern is never going to leave the cauldron. So like, what do we do?
Yeah. So Nesta's like, oh, I'll sacrifice myself.
Simple as that.
Wait, it's like in Harry Potter where it's like, he's going to sacrifice himself. Ron, no!
Oh, yeah. I like couldn't think of what you were talking about.
You gonna get that stone or not?
Yes. Wow. Amazing accent,
Sorry.
actually.
Thank you. I'm American, but I speak in British tongues. What can I say?
Impressive.
So, can you tell like my ADHD is like kicking today?
I love it.
Like you're speaking and like my mind is in like 10 other places.
It's the lavender foam.
You think?
Yeah.
Maybe it's exhaustion and burnout, but here we are.
Here we are.
So yeah, Nesta's gonna sacrifice herself. So then that way, Feyre can get to the cauldron. So she's gonna like lure the king away.
Yes.
And Cassian's like, yeah, I'll stand guard. Okay, cool, Cassian, you big meaty man, just stand there. But there's like this like unknown like thought that they're gonna die.
Yeah, like I think
like they know this is the end.
Yeah, like they're both volunteering for this task, knowing that they're not coming out of this.
That's wild.
And like
that's crazy.
And that's also why like, you know, Nessa's like, I will go, I'll lure him out, and Cassian's like, I'll go guard you, because it's like he just knows he needs to guard her like as long as Feyre needs, but like they're both ultimately just gonna die together.
That's insane. Anyways. Yeah. So
they go off and do that.
Yeah, so Feyre and Amryn go to the cauldron. And they're there. And Amryn has like Feyre goes to like put her hands on the cauldron or some shit. Mm-hmm. And Amryn's like, oh, by the way, Feyre, I've been lying to you this whole time.
Yeah, and as a reader, especially the first read, the second read, obviously know what happens. The first read, you're like, what are you talking about? And so as Amryn
Deceit, lies!
Right. And so as Amryn tells Feyre, like, oh, I've been lying to you, like, Feyre touches the cauldron, and the cauldron, because it's going to find Nesta, like, it takes Feyre, like, with it, you know, to, like, go seek out Nesta. And so Feyre's like, what, like, you don't know. You're like, is Amryn a fucking double agent? Like, what is going on? So
who can you trust?
Please hold on to that thought. So now the cauldron is flying toward Nesta because it's like she's rallying her power, and that's where the king is going as well. So the cauldron's like view, I don't know, takes Feyre there. So what we see from the cauldron's eyes is that the king goes to Nesta, but all of a sudden the king has a knife to Papa Archer on his throat, and you're like, oh, this is no good.
They didn't even have a reunion yet, and he's like, I'm going to kill your dad.
Right, but I think but because the king knows about Nesta and, like, her feelings, her emotions, her desires, he knows that, like, that's a complex relationship because of, like, the cauldron, and so I think he, like, grabs the dad to be like, what are you gonna do, you know? And so the king has a knife to his throat, and then all of a sudden, like, not like the Nesta has, like, a super chance to save him, but they're kind of, like, going back and forth, and then, boom, all of a sudden, the king snaps the dad's neck, dead, and you're like, oh dear, like you're like, this is it, this is it.
Bad. That was bad. I remember I was like, ugh!
Yeah, that sucked.
Like I gasped.
Yeah, that sucked. And so now all of a sudden Cassian and the king are fighting, powers back and forth, the king's fucking up his wings, everything's going crazy, Nesta explodes with power,
everybody in the club getting tipsy. I mean,
yeah, like it's not good. And so this is the point we referenced last episode about when Elaine says, like, he snapped your wings. This is like, you know, this won't take more than this to kill you.
Yeah.
So again, do we think this is what we're referencing? I'm not sure. And so they're fighting, right? This is happening. Now, Nesta explodes with power. Doesn't work. I mean, it works, but like the king is still coming. And so, this part fucking got me. I don't care what you say, Hallee. I don't give a fuck. I'm reading it because this shit is good. This was good writing. And so
this is good literature.
Right. And so basically the two of them realize, like, all right, this is it. And Cassian's like, Nesta, run. Like, get out of here. And she's like crying. She crawls over to him and she's like, I'm gonna die with you, essentially. And she's like covering his body. And he's like screaming at her to go. And she's like, I can't. So you're like, well, that's weird. Okay. And so he's laying there dying. They're both bleeding out. The king is like walking up slowly. And Cassian's like, I have no regrets in my life but this, that we did not have time. That I did not have time with you, Nesta. I will find you again in the next world, the next life, and we will have that time, I promise. Again, wow, very intense for people who don't talk.
Yeah.
But yet she's like feeling the same. This is the first time that we see Nesta returning his feelings and the intensity. And it says, she covered Cassian's body with her own. Cassian went still and then slid his hand over her back. Together, they'd go together. And you're like, holy shit, like, how did we get here? I mean, that's insane. And so they're just laying there about to die together, just like holding each other. Honestly, so fucking sad. And then all of a sudden the chapter ends with that this black knife breaks through the king's throat, and it says, Elaine stepped out of a shadow behind him and rammed Truth Teller to the hilt through the back of the king's neck.
To the hilt.
To the hilt. As she snarled in his ear, don't touch my sister. And you're like, holy shit, Elaine! Like, this bitch who bakes bread in gardens?
Yeah, literally. That's like the one like caveat that I'm like, okay, maybe an Elaine book can have some promise.
Okay, so not to be like dirty for no reason, but like, do we think that Elaine's a secret freak? Like, the books are all about sex all the time. I'm just saying, like.
How did you, why? Because that's like a jump.
Okay, well, I guess, okay, so how you're like.
I was thinking a freak of like this like demented sociopathic bitch.
No, I was thinking sex automatically, but here's my reasoning. Okay. So kind of like how your ADHD makes you have 9 million thoughts, I have like trains of thought in my head that I don't say out loud and I get to that point. So I was thinking of like Feyre and Rhys are like very romantic. Nesta is very like fiery and like slutty, but like, you know, in control. And I'm thinking like, okay, because of course there's going to be sex chapters in the Elaine book. And I'm like, am I going to be bored to tears? Or is she a secret freak? I'm going with the latter.
I mean, I would assume probably to keep readers engaged.
Just want to point it out.
I mean, I'm sure a big population of these books, of people who read these books, are there for the smut.
Correct, which is why I felt the need to bring it up.
Okay. Well,
you know,
SJM,
like
the viewers have spoken.
She has all these hidden little things, you know. She's like baking bread now. She's fucking killing people, and I'm like, well, you know, maybe she like seems like, oh, she's like blushing, and they always make comments when they mention sex around her. She's like beside herself. Yeah, fucking right, bitch. You are like the freakiest of all the sisters. I'm just saying. I don't know.
Jesus.
Anyway, so she stabs the fucking king in the neck. That's where we're at.
Wait, but also, quick caveat.
Ooh. Okay.
I saw this theory, not confirmed, just a theory, that Elaine is actually a half-sister to Nesta and Feyre. Because in the books, Nesta and Feyre are described as having their mother's eyes, and Elaine has her father's eyes.
Oh, so I literally was like, that's possible, but yes, another mother, you're saying.
Yeah, right. So people are speculating that, like, that's why Elaine is their dad's favorite. Nesta was their mom's favorite. And then Feyre was, like, maybe, like, the baby they thought they should have to save their marriage. But then the mom died, you know?
This is a lot of speculation. You're like, they were having marital issues. They had a baby.
Well, he was a merchant, right? You know, he was traveling to all these places. Like, who knows what went on?
Dad was getting buns across the seas.
Yeah, but we don't know because now he's dead. So
okay. Well, wow, we just digressed so much. I mean, those are all very valid points. So like,
I kind of like that theory though. Like, I'd be down for that.
I'm down for that theory as well. I'm into it. Okay, right, I don't even know where we are. Oh, okay. So Elaine does stab him, great, but after Elaine stabs him, Nesta goes and saws his fucking head off like a savage that she is. So. Yeah, so that's where we're at. So the king's head sawed off. So, of course, at this point, the cauldron's like, I've seen enough. Yeah. And pulls Feyre back into her body. So now we're like, okay, what's going on with Amren?
Yeah, so Amryn lied, but she says like it's for like a good
Yeah,
reason.
so don't worry, we like Amryn still.
So like she's fine. So basically, Amryn is gonna do the spell to unbind her from her fey body, so that way she can like go out and like explode and kill all of Hybern.
Right. So
So she's
like
sacrificing herself.
yeah, so like the spell she lied into the spell was going to stop Hybern's army. She didn't realize, or she didn't tell the truth, saying that like, oh, it's going to kill me in the process.
Yeah.
Which you're like, okay, like as long as you didn't fuck us over, I'm kind of fine with
Yeah.
it.
So like, and when Amryn like sacrifices herself, like it will destroy all of Hybern. So
Right.
like the war will be over.
Right. So you're like,
So you're like, yay, but
see you
like,
later, Amryn.
it's crazy. I mean, like, and Farah has to be the conduit for the spell, so like, she has to be there and literally watch this.
Right. But I mean, okay. So yes. So basically,
All right, bye, Amryn. I guess.
well,
Fuck
because I
you.
want to get to this point. So Feyre does the spell. Amryn flies out like this like fire bird and like literally kills everyone. So
Mass annihilation.
yeah, so within 2 pages the war's over. You're like, okay, fine.
Great. All of that.
Yeah. And the war's over. So okay, great. And so now Amryn, like they describe this firebird like goes into the sea and like disappears on the mist. And you're like, okay, that's like Amryn's end. Which I thought was very beautiful.
Yeah, I thought it was a good like send off.
Okay. Now when this happens, all of a sudden the cauldron is broken. It starts like opening up with this void, right? And so they all are together now. Reese comes, Feyre's there, like everyone's there. And they're like, if this cauldron is destroyed, then our world will like cease to exist. This world, that is how it's formed with this cauldron, right? And so Reese tells Feyre, listen, you were just a conduit for Amryn. I will give you power, be a conduit again, and we can fix this cauldron.
Oh yeah.
And so
oh, it just clicked where we were headed with this one.
Yeah, that's why I just wanted to like get to it. Okay, so then
I hysterically cried at this point.
did you?
Yeah.
Okay.
I was sad.
Well, we're gonna talk about it because I did not. So wow, we're so different. Okay, so Feyre uses all of Reese's power. There was 3 cracks. She seals the 3 cracks. She goes to turn to him to be like, "Yay, we did it! We saved our world." And again, we're glossing over this. It's like pages on pages of like really beautiful descriptions.
It's much more lyrical.
But just for our purposes, there's not much to really elaborate on. And so she looks over at him, and all of a sudden, she used all this power, and he's fucking dead. Now, that being said, I think I was kind of like, nah, there's no way. And that's why I didn't cry.
I was upset because I was like, you go through all this crazy shit, right? And mind you, when I read it, I knew that Silver Flames was Nesta's book.
So you were like, oh, maybe.
So, and then like I remember hearing that like Frost and Starlight is like a happy little like Christmas story. So I was like, oh, like I didn't know time frames or anything.
Right.
So I was like, they literally just went through all this shit, you know, under the mountain, you know, their whole love story developing, fuck Tamlin, like all this crazy shit going through the war. And for him to just fucking die now, I was like, are you kidding? Like they deserved a happy ending.
Right. Well, tell us what happens.
Okay, so anyways, they do get the happy ending because all the High Lords come and they give Reese a token of their power so that he can comes back to life. Wow.
Right.
And we've seen that before. That I didn't really like because I was like, okay, you can think of like a different way for him to be saved.
Agreed. The only part of that I liked was that Tamlin also does it, and as he's doing it, he tells Feyre to be happy, and it's a nice little moment of closure for them, I feel. Now I agree with Hallee, absolutely. I don't like the rest of it. I think there could have been another way to bring him back, especially since he's already a Fae and a High Lord.
And the most powerful High Lord.
Right, like there could even like just throw his fucking dead body in the cauldron. Like literally anything else.
Yeah, and that's the thing too. It's like, okay, so this is where I get confused though, because like Pharaoh is immortal and immortal, not immortal, and they all gave a token of their power, so she has all their power. So her power is an amalgamation of all of theirs, right? But like Reese, he is inherently high fae, right? But now he's dead, and now all the High Lords are giving a piece of their power. So like, how does he just become resurrected and still have all his powers and his
Feyre says, yeah, like Feyre she says like do it, and they're like it's not going to work. It's not the same. Then it works. So I don't understand. And now Reese comes back to life, and he's like, "Someone reach in the cauldron and fish Amber out." And you're like, "What are you talking about?" And so he's like, "Oh, when I was like in that in between place, I found Amryn, and she decided to come back, but only as High Fae. So she gave up whatever being she was before, and now she has like tethered herself
Mhm.
to this body as purely only High
But
Fae."
she had to give that part of her up,
To
herself up. Like that part of her essence, she had to get like that otherworldly, all powerful thing that she was. She had to give that up in order to annihilate
yes.
Hybern. But like I guess there's still just enough that she could come back as just a high
But here's
fae.
my thing I just don't like. I mean, I don't want Reese to die, right? Like, I didn't want that. Amryn, I would also have been very sad if Amryn was dead, but like, again, her ending was beautiful. She
Yeah.
was, like, she even said, Amryn, before she goes and, like, becomes that fiery bird and kills everyone, she, like, tells Feyre, like, I'm so glad I chose this life with you all. Like, tell the High Lord to save a glass for me. Like, it was, like, a beautiful, like,
Yeah.
way. And like because her essence before she did this, like in the prison, she said like we don't have feelings, we didn't have
Yeah, I
connections.
was gonna say, like, she says it then, right? That like wherever she was before this,
But yeah,
like
she doesn't have
they
that.
didn't feel anything. Like they were just there and like
Right.
no
And
emotions, no feelings or nothing.
so I felt for her that was a beautiful end for her to be like, yes, like I did like quote unquote like resort down from that higher power, but like I had a more fulfilled and like whole life because of it.
Hmm.
You should have left it there.
I know. Well, that's the thing, and that's our hang up with these books is that these people die and they come back.
And that's what we were saying last episode. We talk about it a lot. Well, here it is. We don't like it. I mean, again, if Amryn died, I would have been sad. But like in war, people die.
There's
I
casualties.
should be sad. The fact that we went through this entire war, all three books, and not one of the inner circle died. Again, Papa
Yeah.
Archon, fine. Like that was sad. Like that was a beautiful full circle ending.
Yeah.
Amryn should have had that full circle ending, and she should have also died.
Well, maybe she does have a full circle ending we haven't seen.
I just think this should have been it for her. I really do. I just don't. I think this would have been a
You know,
lovely way for her story to end.
it literally keeps me up at night knowing that majority of the world has read CC3 and I have not.
I'm gonna kill Hallee. And so, okay, so the war is over in this book, right? And so, yeah, we do have hangups about it, but I mean, it is what it is. We didn't write it. So, all three of the sisters go to their father. They cremated him. They kind of all have different reactions about it, right? But they want to like say their goodbyes in
Yeah,
whatever way they want
that's
to.
nice.
Also, after the war's over, Feyre goes and meets Miriam and Draken. She's like, I've heard a
Mhm.
lot about you guys, whatever. And they ask them if they'd be willing to take the cauldron to their
Mhm.
island.
But not to tell anyone.
Right, like it's secret. They agree. Okay, fine. And so the next day after the war is over, again, now the cauldron is taken care of. We're just not going to talk about it like ever again. um, now everyone, literally humans, fairies, high lords, everyone, Miriam, Draken, they all go to Feyre's old estate because it's like in ruins, but like there's like some standing rooms.
Mhm.
They all go and start discussing what are we gonna do now? The war's over. It's a new world. um, and so we need to make a new treaty. We need to kind of make this a work in progress. Do we want to build another wall? Do the humans want a wall? Do they not want a wall?
Yeah,
What are we gonna do?
they have
And
to
so
figure out how they're all going to coexist.
right. And so it's nice. We're trying to do this together. We know it's not going to be solved right now. We know
Mhm.
it's like a work in progress and we're going to get there. So we're slowly starting, which is nice.
Yeah. Um, and I think also it's key to mention here as well that, you know, the continent is still there, right? So they still have to fend with the human queens.
Right.
So like, okay, great, Hybern is gone, and they're all safe on in the island of Prithian, but who knows what the hell is going on the continent,
Well, right.
right?
And the walls down there too. So it's like they're all dealing with the same stuff, but like we are only kind of dealing with like our little microcosm of Prithian.
Yeah,
We're trying to make this a new setup for everyone. So we have a lot of work cut out for us.
yeah, for sure. So whatever, they go home, and it's interesting how Feyre says like we go home, meaning the Night Court, but
Mhm.
in the first book, she says, "Oh, and then we went home," referencing the spring court with Tamlin.
Yeah, that is a good point. And I think the first book, right? It was like that, like how we mentioned a bunch of times. The first book was almost like its own little story. It was like
Hmm.
plot setup, but it had its own little plot within just the first book of like Under the Mountain and all that. So I think that was like its way to close that story, and like now it's the way to close this story, which I think
Yeah.
is really like well done writing, honestly.
Yeah. And then also when she's home, she sends a note to Tamlin,
Mm-hmm.
and it says something. Doesn't it say like, "Oh, like thank you, like, like be happy as well," or something like that?
Yeah, like because he told her to be happy, and she was like, "I hope you find happiness too," or whatever she says.
Yeah,
But
which is nice. Like, okay, so I guess like that is squashed, right? It's almost like she was giving her blessing.
yeah, like I think just to like she not forgives him maybe, but like kind of,
Yeah.
right? And I think this is also leading up to the fact that we very well could get a Tamlin redemption arc.
Hmm.
They're fine. They seem to be over their main issue and they're just like we're moving on with our lives. So I do feel like this is plot set up for his redemption in
Hmm.
some way. It may not be an Elaine situation like I speculate, right? I know most of us hate that, but I just have a strong feeling. But regardless if that's true or not, I think that he will get a redemption arc in some fashion.
Yeah, I would agree with you about that one. Um, and really, the book's ended. We end with some Feyre and Reese cuteness, which
Always.
is just cute. You know, I mean, it's cute, but like also kind of morbid. They make a bargain with each other that
Oh
like
my gosh,
if one of
yes.
them is to die, then the other will die as well,
Yeah, they're basically like, I never want to deal with that. So let's just settle it here. And if you die, I die.
which is crazy, right? Because if one goes, the other one goes.
You know, that is crazy.
What is the Night Court gonna do if both of their High Lord and High Lady are dead?
Yeah, they're not being good leaders in this case. They're being like romantic, like little assholes.
It's giving Romeo and Juliet.
Yeah, like they're not thinking of their court and like the benefit of their people. They're thinking of like, we're so romantic.
We're so in
Um,
love.
yeah, and so they basically like when it's time, we go together. It's a bargain. You're like, okay.
Yeah,
Um,
and
but then that's
that's
really
it.
it, right? Like
They go make a
war's
life
over.
together. War is over.
Yeah.
It's been a long 3 books.
And yeah, they say we'd have an eternity of nights to do this, to see everything together. A gift, all of it. So it ends great. Super nice, super happy. Again, war's over. And so as we mentioned last episode briefly, this was like the main trilogy, right? It follows Feyre's point of view. It's about the war against Hybern. That's where Amarantha came from, and it was all leading up to this war.
Mhm.
So this is the last part of this book. Now, next episode, we're going to talk about the novella, which is called Frost and Starlight. We will explain what the purpose of that book is in the
Mhm.
scope of this series. But
Yeah.
just so we know, we are done with the main trilogy. We're done with the main story. Again, all the things we learned this book, like Miriam and Draken, they're not really relevant anymore because
No.
it served its purpose.
Mhm.
Um,
So all the
so
loose ends are mostly tied up.
and now we will get into new plot, new characters,
Mhm.
new
New
dynamics. So
point
we'll
of
talk,
views.
yeah, new
That's
point of
cool
views.
too.
Yeah, so we'll talk about that next episode. It's going to get interesting. And we will also discuss how we feel about all these new changes and how we like them as readers.
Yeah.
And so, guys, we did it. We did the whole trilogy. Ah! Woo! All right.
Well, it's been a long ride. To those who are still listening, you rock.
Keep listening. We made it through war, all of us alive, because we can't kill anyone
Yeah.
apparently.
And now
But
we have like a nice little Christmas
Christmas book,
story.
yeah. But I'm glad we're all here, guys. And
Yay!
so we will see you next week for Frost and Starlight.
Woo!
All right. See you then.
Bye.
Bye.